North Korea, one of the most isolated and authoritarian countries on Earth. Since its creation after World War II, the nation has been ruled by a single family, the Kim dynasty. Built on the ideology of Juche, often translated as self-reliance, and centered around absolute loyalty to the supreme leader. The system was created by Kim Il-sung, strengthened by Kim Jong-il, and continues today under Kim Jong Un. For decades, North Korea has faced economic hardship, international sanctions, food shortages, and widespread criticism over human rights conditions. Yet despite all these challenges, one question continues to surprise the world. Why has the Kim dynasty survived for more than 7 decades? Why has there never been a successful nationwide uprising? Why have military officers, political rivals, or foreign powers failed to remove the regime? The answer is not based on one single factor. It is a combination of strict political control, powerful security institutions, careful management of the elite, and a system designed to prevent any potential challenger from gaining enough influence. In this documentary, we will uncover how the Kim family built one of the most resilient political systems in modern history, and why it has survived against all expectation. Why has no coup ever succeeded in North Korea? To understand why North Korea has avoided a successful coup, we first need to understand how coups usually happen. In many countries, military takeovers occur when senior officers and powerful political figures lose confidence in their leader. They may remove the government by force, sometimes with public support or backing from outside powers. Recent examples include military coups in Mali in 2020 and Burkina Faso in 2022, where armed forces removed sitting governments. But North Korea operates differently. For more than 70 years, the Kim dynasty has created one of the world's most tightly controlled political systems. The military, the ruling Workers' Party, and state institutions are structured in a way that prevents any individual or faction from becoming powerful enough to challenge the supreme leader. Potential rivals are closely monitored, and officials who lose the trust of the leadership can quickly disappear from positions of influence. Because North Korea is extremely secretive, many internal political events are difficult to verify. However, analysts agree on one major pattern. The Kim leadership has consistently worked to prevent alternative centers of power from developing. In North Korea, loyalty to the leader is not just expected. It is essential for survival. And without trusted allies inside, both the military and political system, organizing a successful coup becomes extremely difficult. Kim Jong Un expurge, eliminating potentiel rival. When Kim Jong Un inherited power in 2011, he was one of the youngest leaders in the world. For any new ruler, the early years are often the most dangerous. Senior officials, military commanders, and powerful insiders may see a young and inexperienced leader as an opportunity to challenge his authority. Kim Jong Un understood this risk. Soon after taking power, he began reshaping the country's leadership structure. Senior officials were removed, replaced, or moved away from positions where they could build independent influence. The message was clear. In North Korea, loyalty to the leader is not just expected. It is essential for survival. And without trusted allies inside both the military and political system, organizing a successful coup becomes extremely difficult. No one inside the system could become powerful enough to threaten the supreme leader. The most famous example was Kim Jong-un's uncle, Jang Song-thaek. Once considered one of the most influential figures in North Korea, Jang was seen as a key supporter during Kim's early years in power. But in 2013, he was suddenly removed, accused of serious political crimes, and later executed. His downfall shocked the world. For many analysts, it was not only about one individual. It was a warning to the entire North Korean elite. Then, in 2017, Kim Jong-un's half-brother Kim Jong-nam was assassinated at Kuala Lumpur International Airport. International investigations linked the attack to North Korean agents, although Pyongyang denied involvement. Kim Jong Un had lived outside North Korea for years and was sometimes viewed as a possible alternative figure within the Kim family. Together, these events demonstrated a central principle of Kim Jong Un's rule. Potential threats must be removed before they become powerful enough to challenge the regime. But this strategy did not begin with Kim Jong Un. The foundation of this system was created decades earlier by his grandfather, Kim Il-sung. The first major challenge to Kim Il-sung's rule. The most famous early challenge to the Kim family's power happened during the rule of North Korea's founder, Kim Il-sung. After the Korean War, the country's communist leadership was divided into several competing factions. Two groups were especially influential. The first was the Soviet Korean faction, ethnic Koreans who had spent years in the Soviet Union and had close connections with Moscow. The second was the Yan'an faction, made up of Korean communists who had worked with China's Communist Party and had strong ties with Beijing. Both groups had their own political networks and military connections. For Kim Il-sung, this was a serious threat. He understood that as long as powerful factions existed inside the ruling party, his control over the country would remain uncertain. The situation became even more complicated in 1956, when Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev began the process of de-Stalinization, criticizing extreme personal rule inside communist countries. While Kim Il-sung was visiting Moscow, members of rival factions reportedly prepared a challenge against his leadership. The failed attempt became known as the August Faction Incident. However, the challenge collapsed. Instead of removing Kim, many officials eventually supported him, seeing him as a nationalist Korean leader rather than someone controlled by foreign powers. Kim Il-sung responded with a massive political purge. Members of rival factions were removed from power, imprisoned, or forced to flee abroad. Over time, the Soviet Korean and Yan'an factions lost almost all influence, allowing Kim Il-sung to establish a highly centralized system built around his own leadership. This event became a blueprint for the Kim dynasty. Eliminate rivals early, prevent alternative power centers, and make loyalty the foundation of survival. But decades later, North Korea would face an even greater crisis, one that pushed the regime closer to instability than ever before. The last major threat to the Kim dynasty. The Kim family's rule faced perhaps its greatest internal challenge during the darkest period in North Korea's modern history, the 1990s. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, North Korea lost one of its most important economic partners. Soon, the country entered a devastating famine that caused widespread suffering. Estimates vary, but many researchers believe hundreds of thousands of people may have died during this crisis. As the economy collapsed and public frustration increased, concerns about instability inside the regime grew. The most widely discussed case was the alleged 1995 6th Army Corps coup attempt. The 6th Army Corps, based near Chongjin close to the Chinese border, was one of North Korea's important military formations. According to reports, some senior officers within the unit became frustrated with the government's handling of the crisis and allegedly considered taking control of key military facilities. The reported plan was to seize strategic locations and challenge the leadership in Pyongyang. But once again, the regime acted before the threat could develop. North Korea's powerful security agencies reportedly discovered the alleged conspiracy before it was carried out. A major purge followed, removing suspected participants and weakening the possibility of organized military resistance. Because North Korea remains one of the world's most secretive countries, many details of this event are difficult to independently confirm. However, the result was undeniable. Another possible challenge to the Kim family's rule had been eliminated. Final conclusion. why the Kim dynasty has survived. So why has no coup succeeded in North Korea? The answer lies in a system built over more than 7 decades. The Kim dynasty has survived not simply because of military strength, but because it has created a structure where potential threats are identified and removed before they can grow. The political elite is kept dependent on the system. Officials who rise to power often owe their positions to the leadership, making rebellion a dangerous choice. The military, despite being one of the largest in the world, operates under strict political control. Independent power networks are discouraged, and loyalty to the supreme leader remains a central principle. For ordinary citizens, challenging the government is also extremely risky. North Korea's system of surveillance, restrictions on information, and harsh punishments create enormous barriers to organized resistance. But there is another reason why outside powers have been extremely cautious about trying to force political change in North Korea. The country possesses nuclear weapons and one of the world's largest conventional military forces. Any attempt to remove the regime by force could create unpredictable consequences, not only for North Korea, but for the entire region, especially South Korea and its capital, Seoul. China and Russia's relationships with Pyongyang also make the situation more complicated, creating additional geopolitical risks. For now, the Kim dynasty remains in power. After more than 70 years, countless crises, economic failures, and internal challenges, the regime has survived because it built something far more powerful than a government. It built a system designed around one goal: the survival of the Kim family itself. And that is the real reason why, despite everything the world has witnessed, North Korea's leadership has remained almost impossible to overthrow. Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe for more international documentaries. Thanks for watching.